You should have a chat box in the bottom right hand corner. If you want to chat to us or post some questions, use that. If you just want to say hello in there so we know people can hear us. Can everybody hear me? Hello, Dominic. Well, there is some people there. Excellent. Well done. Thanks, everyone. Right, my name's Spencer Devale. I'm endurance lead for England Athletics. And today we've got Luke Gunn and Andy Drake from Leeds Beckett University and University of Birmingham, who are going to talk us through the talent hubs. You've probably seen in the press recently that they've been launched. We've had them as a pilot for quite a few months now, working generally from an endurance point of view to get them up and going and to see how things work. But there's many partners involved in this, not just England Athletics, British Athletics, University of Birmingham, Leeds Beckett University, TAS, London Marathon Events. So it's a great collaboration. Sorry, Spencer, you're showing on the screen on your side. Sorry about that. Am I the right way up or am I the wrong way around? Has anybody else seen me upside down?
You're good for me, Spence.
All good. Okay, all right. So we've got probably 10 or 15 minutes of chat on generally what the hubs are, what they involve, what they allow us to do and what is available. We're not going to go into specifics today, and we're not going into the selection policy because we've got many more webinars coming up over the next few weeks. In fact, there's one straight after this for Leeds, and then we've got one on Wednesday with University of Birmingham to give you more specific information. So Andy, I'm going to pass across to you first. So Andy Drake from Leeds Beckett University.
Hi, cheers. Thanks, Spencer. Well, hi, everybody. Yeah, as Spencer said, you know, myself and Luke are working on this. There's a whole bunch of stakeholders, you know, involved, and so it's a complex arrangement, you know, pulling all those together. But ultimately, this is something that impacts on, you know, in a real positive way on athletes and their coaches. And I think what I'll just chat about for a moment or two is the I guess the sort of the entry point, which is the youth talent program, which is, you know, within the hub program. And I think a lot of people are probably familiar with youth talent or the ACE program. I almost going to say as was, but there is a cohort of athletes who are currently completing the ACE program, which was the Athlete Apprenticeship in Sporting Excellence. But that's that's had a change, and the cohort who are on that in their first year of it. So these are our 16 to 18-year-olds, sixth form college students with their coaches. They're now undertaking a diploma in sporting excellence, but there's many similarities between the two programs. And so it's fantastic that we've got them coming in to Leeds as a centre now, and likewise with the group at Birmingham. So it just sort of adds to the locations that athletes and coaches can get involved in that program. And youth talent looks at from an athletic perspective, sure, there's all the technical, tactical, physical, and mental aspects. There's a big nutrition component in there as well. So there's that sort of sports science support that's wrapped around to help athletes and coaches start to tap into some of those support services. And then there's also lifestyle elements. We look at careers. We look at sort of communication skills. And values and culture, and as well as sort of health and safety aspects as well, if I hadn't mentioned that. So there's an education component, which is, I think, a big part of the philosophy that underpins all of this, all the way through the program, which is a dual career aspect. So this is about athletes developing academically and athletically. And I think with a number of centres around the country that are delivering these programs, I think one of the we're working in partnership with the two institutions that are here this evening. So if one of the athletes is on the youth talent program with us in Leeds, but they're interested in going to study at one of the institutions in Birmingham, University of Birmingham, in case in point. Then Luke and the team would know that that's athlete and the coach, when they head to Birmingham, they'll have a good idea of what they've been through, because it's a common pathway. So they'll know what their technical abilities are, as well as some of their physical abilities, and they'll also know that they've been through that educational component as well, which is going to set them up from that sort of dual career type perspective. So that's, in a nutshell, that's youth talent. And we've got a series of webinars coming up over the next few weeks, so we'll kind of get into a lot of the details. So that's a whistle stop overview of youth talent. So Luke, maybe do you want to pick up on sort of the, I guess, Talent Hub program itself, the sort of 18+ type part of it?
Yeah, sure, Andy. Yeah, thanks for that. This is probably the new part of it. So this is the 18+ kind of part of the Talent Hub. They are very much working alongside each other. We have staff working on both sides of the program, but the 18 to 23 age group, I think we all on here would agree, was an area that needed addressing. Too much of a dropout rate, not just at the elite end, but even at participation and in between as well. So that was the part of the pathway that I think, especially institution-wise, we felt universities were doing a lot to, with some funding from the universities to keep those guys in the sport. And we were building an environment already before this to allow people to continue to thrive and develop whilst also doing their dual career. If you weren't lucky enough to be on a futures program from British Athletics, which we know is incredibly tough to be on, there was a gap in the pathway. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that London Marathon, British Athletics, England Athletics and TAS kind of buddied up together to kind of go, how can we do this together? Which was when I'd be honest, when it came to me the first time, was the thing I was most excited about, because I think beforehand we were very disjointed. The university had its own scholarship program, was doing some good things. Futures never communicated to us before this. If you were just below that tier, it was kind of unclear where you could get access to, and it was all, you had to kind of have a really engaging, proactive coach to kind of knock on doors. So what we're hoping here is this fills the gap for a number of things, and we've built an environment around these. What I was also passionate about to get across was that the universities have these staff in place. Leeds Beckett and Birmingham have been picked for this reason. We have, amazing physios on site. We've got physiologists, we've got sports nutrition, sports psych, and lifestyle support even. But apart from the few scholars, they were kind of the best kept secret in the country. And I really wanted to open the doors and go, okay, how can we get access to these amazing guys that I've been really lucky to work alongside, and start spreading that benefit to the region, not just to the university scholarships. And also on top of that, I mean, we also noticed that a lot of people after university, whether it be in the UK or even coming back from the US, there was not that many options for people to come back and either part-time work or carry on their athletics at that next tier, unless they were really lucky enough to have gone onto a program of support. So we're trying to fill that void at the same time. So there was a real mutual benefit for everybody, and I'm really excited they teamed up with the universities who were already putting substantial funding into it. Once you actually broke down scholarships and some coach wages and facilities in kind, there was a lot of money already going in. So yeah, it was good to partner up. But yeah, in essence, what have we done? We have opened up the doors. So I know it seems like we would assume every person on the talent hubs at the universities that we're representing. It's not true. Birmingham on its own has athletes from 7 universities, including our own, obviously. Some are in college, some are in part-time work, some are in full-time work. It's about trying to get the best support to these guys. They have access to physio, S&C, physiology, nutrition, and psych. It's not an open door. You can have absolutely everything you want. We go through a process, and this is the most important bit then, of sitting down with coach and athlete with a point of contact, which we have at the university, to go through and ask questions about where those gaps are, what you might need some help with. What we found was a lot of people had, physios that they were using and they're trusting, amazing. Some didn't have a need for anything else, but were quite keen to learn about some more. But some actually came to us and went, you know what, we needed a scan last year and we couldn't find out how to even do it, even though we had some money to pay for it. And that's the point about trying to open those barriers, especially that age group, 18 to 23. You have a long-term injury, which takes a long time to get diagnosed. That's a risk that we could lose you from the sport. Also, there's a risk sometimes of athletes seeing the candy on the other side and saying, oh, if I go here, there's access to this, this, and this, and I might be able to, progress. This point is to open the door for the athlete and the coach to access those things. They're not golden nuggets, but to start talking to those things. And that's what we've really tried to do with it. Those point of contacts I've mentioned, they are, people employed by the hub who have a knowledge of the regional environment, the sports service staff, and the processes that the athlete will go through. They are there to facilitate the conversation, and they've been really carefully picked to keep that environment going. And it's very much a partnership as we go along. We've also put some money aside for things like camps and scans, facility access. We are very much just trying to open the door on some things that were perceived to be locked before. Is that in a nutshell, Andy?
I think so. Yes. I think the only thing to add to that is, as Luke said, the Birmingham hub is based at the University of Birmingham. It has athletes from a variety of institutions, and the same with Leeds. I would say we're based at Leeds Beckett, but we have athletes on our program from the University of Leeds. There's Leeds Trinity. There's the Leeds Art College. There's other institutions, other universities. Around the region as well. So hence hub. But I guess this question time, yeah.
This was the fact that all the partners are working together now. We communicate regularly. So what happened before, where if we had an athlete that was on futures program at the university, if they can't access something through that and the hub can add on to that, amazing. But also we can communicate and make sure that there's an efficiency of the process, and fundamentally open it up to more athletes that we knew were just in that tier beneath, receiving support, really needing it. But yeah, the communication between all partners, including Leeds and Birmingham themselves, and kind of problem solving those has been a key development for the whole nation.
Yeah, cool. Cheers, Luke. I guess we've got a few minutes to take a few questions if we've got any from. We've got Lynn and Spencer in the background having a look at those for us. Cool, nice one. Youth talent. Well, I talked about youth talent, so I'll have a go at addressing that one. So youth talent is historically has been by invitation, and looks at so it's a national program. There's a number of sites around the country. So we look at the athletes, look at the rankings and performances from the past season, which until this year was a fairly straightforward process. We're not sure if we're going to get a season or not this year. So we have been looking at that, I know we will publicise how athletes get onto youth talent for 2020 entry, over the course of the summer, depending on whether we actually get much competition or not. But around the centres, there's about 240 athletes on it nationally, so it cuts fairly deep into the into the rankings. So I think we pick up a pretty healthy number of performers on there. So it's a good question, and it's really hard to answer it in the current climate.
I'm happy to take this one. it's a very valid question. So just in case we can see, how can we ensure that poaching by Hub salary coaching staff won't happen? It's a valid point. And I know historically this might have happened. So at Birmingham, I can comment that we've employed a member of staff who is a coach, but his main remit is to be a coordinator of what is going on in terms of loads of programs at the university. He has the phone call of all those coaches, and he would say, okay, there's a group session going on. I'm not sure if you think it's relevant for your athlete, but if it is, this is what it is. And they have that converse. And I think the very fact that the opening up of conversation with those coaches should at least help them feel involved inside, rather than that perception of being on the outside. And I think sometimes athletes choose to move coaches because there's a perception they can get more by being at a certain place, which is not the case. So I can only talk in examples. So I know this year that we've had a number of examples of this, of personal coaches that have raved about how we've communicated with them, and they've known exactly what's going on. So if there is a group doing something that's relevant, they can throw them in. But they've also felt comfortable enough to say, I really want my athlete to do something slightly different. And we've been actually be able to say, perfect, I've actually got a few guys that have mentioned they're looking at something similar. Do you mind if I throw them in with your group? The whole point from an endurance point of view is to, wherever possible, to not have athletes training on their own. But so we've kind of really opened up a facilitative environment to try and make that happen. I guess the other thing to help with is our coaches have multiple remits at the university. Some of it is university coaching, some of it is working on the YTP, some of it is working on the talent hub. They are not reliant on taking on X number of athletes in any of our KPIs. It is all about productivity of the athlete. We found that if good athletes coming on, they've done well, good coaches. So we're trying to add on to that rather than trying to do anything else. I hope that helps in a bit, but feel free to ask any follow-up questions.
Good to Joe Frostle.
Cool.
I'll take this one. Yeah. So there is an endurance slant. Not going to make any excuse for that. London Marathon are one of the biggest sponsors behind this as a partnership. Birmingham is slightly different. We have chosen to take some of the funding and help a small number of sprints and jumps because of the demographic that we had in Birmingham from a talent point of view. And as I say, both of these are pilot projects. So I'd hope that we're a little bit of an example of showing how this can work across all events, but with the remit we were given and the main sponsors coming from endurance, that is why there is a bit of a slant towards it. But yes, I believe we need to roll this off across all event groups, much further than just Birmingham and Leeds as well.
Cool. Hi, Liana. That's a good point. Hey, yeah, clearly there is that. It's pretty obvious that there's a need for talent hub program to develop into the south of England. So it's with all the various partners, it's British Athletics program delivered through the home nations at as we're seeing in the first instance at Leeds Becker and at University of Birmingham. So there'll be Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland will also be developing talent hubs. So we geographically we're covering the whole of the UK, I'm not where they'll be in the southeast. We can southeast and southwest. We can only speculate, but clearly that's progression for a program like this would be to spread further around England as well as the rest of the UK. Right, have we got another one? Cool. I'll just jump into that one. I mean, that's a good point here. That I think that sort of follows on from the previous question. I'm not party to what other venues, locations were considered, and you know, but they're both centres that you know, have a big athletics culture, you know, and are certainly sort of centres, real sort of hives of activity. One of the athletes that we are supporting on the Leeds Talent Hub is a student and trains in Sheffield. So they come up for elements of their support. Some of it's provided in Sheffield for them. I think that's part of a scholarship program that they have. So elements of that aren't delivered as part of that university scholarship program, then we're picking that up in Leeds, working with that athlete and their coach. Yeah, that you know, covers Sheffield. Likewise, I'd imagine there's, you know, Birmingham covering some of the Midlands region as well would be a similar one.
Great question, Ollie, on the screen.
Yeah.
Opportunity for coaches to use the hubs for coaching development. Absolutely. This has been one thing that definitely would have been happening right now. And actually, some of the webinars following on are exactly doing that. We're going to try and get our physiologists and nutritionists on screen. And there's a number of resources that we believe we can share really, really easily. I think both hubs have always got an open door policy as well. If anyone wants to either come along and see us for the day or pick up the phone and speak to myself or an S&C coach or anything like that, that is definitely the idea, to spread this to the region. I say a number of our KPIs are to improve below our pathway and then above it. And as I said before, this is about opening doors. If we ever see the opportunity to record a really relevant workshop or even to do it as a webinar, we will do. I'm growing my list now. So we've got our list of coaches that have people on the Talent Hub and the YTP. That's already, you know, 30 plus coaches working regionally. So if we keep that rolling on, you know, year on year on year, you know, I will be getting a mail shot list of people working or wanting to hear about people in that specific age group. And I know that's a really specific age group that wants help and that sometimes is missed in the education. But yes, in short answer, wherever we can, that is the idea.
Right. Cool. Right. Hi, Karen and Les. Are all the coaches at the two universities? Yes. Yeah. All qualified coaches. So licensed, DBS checked. Yeah, etc. So.
As are all the S&C coaches, physiologists, physios. It's all the highest standard. We are checked and challenged by national governing bodies and TAS as well to make sure that they're up to the spec that they should be. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, across the board. But, yeah, an important question. Thank you.
Matt, now that's a good question. Finally, I can say no, not just through Para 10. To the credit, this was the first thing that came from the NGB, and that they were aware that their talent ID process was Para 10 based. So the premise of the YTP, the Youth Talent Program, is to cast the net a bit wide, and then to go through a process of education, getting to know the athletes, resilience, so that when we come to those selection meetings for Talent Hub, we've got a bit more of a picture. So not just on what the performance gone, especially as we know around that age, 16, 18, 19, you can get long-term injuries, you can have, you know, troubles with your A-levels. There's a number of hosts going in. So that is the idea, that we have a full picture based on what Andy said around tactical, technical, you know, physical, as well as, you know, those psychological traits, but not just judge them on that, like that. Hopefully they would have gone through a system of the YTP where there's some uniformity in it. To make a judgment call. Obviously, they've not had access to that, and we judge them on those traits. That's unfair. But yeah, we are looking at. We'll go for. In fact, we've got a selection process one separately. But in short answer, no, not just that anymore. Sorry, Spencer.
Cheers. Thanks, Spencer. Cool. Right. I think, Luke, that is going to wrap things up for this half an hour. in classic style, if you're interested in specifically hearing about an introduction to our Leeds program, if you change over to BBC Two or the other webinar stream, we'll see you on there in a few minutes. But I guess just on behalf of Luke and myself, and with Spencer coming in at the start there, thanks for everybody's interest. Hopefully the small sample of questions sort of touched on our people's sort of feelings and interests on there. Lots of other webinars coming up where we'll get into things like the selection and so on and so forth. So
likewise, guys, thanks for having me. I'm back on for Birmingham on Wednesday, so